This is Parsha Chukat, and thank you for asking me. Like you said, no, this is my favorite thing to do because the teacher always learns the most. So I learned so much. So maybe I'll talk about stuff you guys have already heard, but be happy for me because I learned a whole lot. So my biggest takeaway from this Parsha is I'm calling it how to turn a sin into a win. So there's how to turn a sin into a win. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's an episode in this parsha where the people learn this concept. So human beings, we have free choice. Adam had free choice in the garden. He made a bad choice. Last week in Parsha Korah, he used his free choice and that didn't turn out well. But when we make a bad choice, that's really the definition of being human. God never expects us to be perfect because he has the angels and they're perfect beings. And then he had the animals and they do everything by instinct. So human beings are connecting heaven and earth. We're both physical and spiritual because we have a soul. So we have this ability to make a free choice. We have an ability to make a bad choice or a good choice. But if we can fail miserably like Korah did, then that means we can also use our free choice to succeed in a great way. So we turn our sin into a win. The symbol for evil is the snake, and the snake is kind of like the perfect symbol because it lurks around on the ground and you don't see it, and then all of a sudden you're overtaken by it and you're surprised and it bites you. And that's how sin is. It's like we're unaware and you're like, oh, here I am again. I'm doing the very thing that I said I was never going to do again. And and it gets you, it bites. And so the first step to turn a sin into a win is you have to see it. And so King David in Psalm 51, he said, my sin is before me always. And it's not because he was depressed about his sin. It was because he wanted this awareness of knowing what his weaknesses are. Like, I want it before me. I don't want to be surprised by it, like the snake. And so when I say the word see, I'm talking about like when you say to somebody, oh, I see what you mean. Like see means to understand because like knowledge is power. And so we're talking about seeing as in having insight into who we are, what triggers us, what our weaknesses are. That's like the first step to change. You have to see it. You have to look at it. So there's an episode in this parsha where they're told to gaze and look up at the snake. So the story goes that the generation in the desert has passed away, and now there's the new generation. And we're getting ready to go into the promised land. And they start complaining to God and to Moses. And it's like they're crying for nothing. And it reminds me of like when you have your kids, you're complaining, you say, quit crying or I'll give you something to cry about. Because they're complaining and then God sends these fiery snakes. And now they really do have something to complain about. And so they say, okay, we're sorry. They acknowledge their sin. They shouldn't have been complaining. And they say to Moses, please, intercede for us and have God take away the snakes. And I noticed God doesn't take away the snakes because that really wasn't going to solve the problem to take away the snakes. So, they're not always going to have Moses. They're about to go into the promised land. So maybe they need to have their own relationship with God, to fix things that need to be fixed and not just be like, oh, Moses, get him to take away the snakes. So God tells Moses to make a fake snake and put it on a pole and have the people look up at it, and whoever gazes at the fake snake will be healed. So he's like, there's this entire process that he wants to happen. Okay, so why would that work? Why would gazing upon a fake snake heal the physical wounds from the bite of a real snake? The answer, according to the 20th century American ultra-Orthodox Rabbi Rav Avigdor Miller, is that the snake represents the Yetzer Hara, or the evil inclination. The Yetzer Hara, like the snake, is so threatening because it blends in with its surroundings and is thus elusive. You don't usually see it coming until it strikes. The sin of the Israelites in complaining about God's grace after being given so many miracles was a classic example of the Yetzer Hara at work. It was a very human failing to complain when tired or hungry or bored, etc. So looking at the snake, Rav Miller held, brought out into the open what was previously lurking beneath the surface. In this way, it restored their faith and helped them gain leverage over their own Yetzer Hara. So we're talking about like turning the sin into a win, because like everything that appears evil can be used eventually to bring about good or more closeness to God, like we descend to come up higher. And it's really interesting because we've just entered the month of Tammuz, and we know that every month has a tribe and every month has like a soul, characteristic of the soul. And so what Tammuz has was the tribe of Reuben, and the sense of the soul is sight. What? Sight. And by sight, we're talking about like this insight, like this self-awareness, so that just like with any problem that you have, like say you have a problem with your finances and you're in debt, the first thing the financial counselor is going to say is, okay, let's look at this. Let's write everything down. Well, how much money is coming in? What do you spend it on? And then you assess the situation. Like that's the first step. Like, let's look at it. Don't do this unconscious spending. I don't even know where my money goes. You know, same thing like with a nutritionist. I want to get healthier. I want to get fat and gain muscle, whatever. The nutritionist is going to say, okay, write down, what are you eating a day? What are your activities like? So there's this thing in the air for the month of Tammuz of sight, insight, looking at stuff to gain knowledge about like what triggers me. Like in a 12-step program, when you go for drugs and alcohol, the first thing is like do a moral inventory of yourself, like know yourself. And I think that's what King David was saying. My sin is before me always. Like I'm aware of this. I'm not going to get caught off guard. I'm not going to, do the same thing over and over without really looking at it. And so the whole idea is, to be able to turn the sin into a win. It's always like the former drug addicts that will make the best counselors, because you can use, if you've overcome your problem, you can turn it around and you can help others with that same problem. And the way that we know that we've really turned our sin into a win is if something got us one time and that situation comes around again, and then we make a better choice, then we know that we've gained that insight, we've gained that knowledge, that self-awareness that we need. And I'll tell you a true story of a teenager that he was on the job, and his friends, you know how it is, like your friends will try to persuade you to do something you shouldn't do, and so anyway, he did something, they dared him to do it, he ended up getting fired from the job. And the irony is that he had gotten all his friends the job. He was hired first, got his friends a job. Now he's fired from the job, and he feels really bad. And so it's kind of like the way that we'll know if he's turned his sin into a win is from this point on. If he ever finds himself in that situation again, where he's in a situation where people are daring him to do something, to remember the pain that he went through when he fell for it. So all of us have to just have that self-awareness to be able to look at things like they did. So anyway, this episode where the snake was put up, it just seems like such an odd thing, but this is all about like, look up, just like when they were fighting against Amalek, and when Moses' arms were raised, God would do miracles for them, but they were looking up to see. So this is where our help comes from. It comes from Hashem. That's the first step, is to look up, know that our help comes from Hashem. And then it's not so much that we did something wrong. It's like, okay, you did something wrong. Now what are you going to do? Did you learn from it? Is there going to be change? Is there going to be a win here? Okay. Okay. You do it differently. Yeah.
And you did change.
Yeah.
And you did
Okay, thank you.
very good.
Always a happy start.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Okay. All right, so we're going on with our study, the laws of Shabbos, specifically the malacha of Chukat, and we started talking about malbush, about clothing, which we said is not, you don't carry in an area without a roof, you're not carrying your clothing because it's an intrinsic part of who you are. Okay, we also talked about the fact that things that are not specifically, that's not, as long as it's made of clothing material, you can make it. It can be adapted to be a malbush, a piece of clothing. So, for example, just spend a lot of time thinking about what would be the circumstances where this. Okay, you need to wear a bed sheet. Okay, you would be allowed to wrap around yourself a bed sheet, even though it's not specifically made. It's not stylish. It's not what's normally worn, but you would be allowed to use that for clothing. On the other hand, okay, things that are made of material that are not specifically for clothing. So, and that would include things like, what things would that include? Hard stuff, hard plastic, rug material, metal, things like that.
That's garbage bags.
You can use that, but you have to make the holes first. You can't make the holes for the arms, just wear the hole for the head, or wear it on your head. You can wear it on your head. We said you could wear it just as long as you can't hold it above you, but you can actually wear it and have it be an extension of your body. Okay, but here's some examples of things that are not clothing material. It's very distracting. Okay, so according to the leading poskim, and it's not everybody doesn't hold this way, but like for example, a watch, okay, which is made of metal, so it's not clothing material, but it's specifically constructed to be worn. So famously, Rechov HaPalmach holds that a watch is not to be worn, although he says, the author of this book, rips on Shabbos.
If it's a piece of jewelry, though.
Without a name.
It's an exception.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, this is what we talk about in every single class. We're talking about situation where it's on Shabbos, laws of Shabbos, and where there's no able. Okay, or you don't hold by the able. Okay, that could be okay. So Rav Chaim Kanievsky held that it's not to be worn, and he says, even Rav Ribiat says that it's a leniency and you should avoid it. On the other hand, if you have a beautiful fancy watch that's specifically for Shabbos and it's a piece of jewelry, then there would be no question about.
Well, the test on that one is if it doesn't work.
Right.
If it's a piece of jewelry and if it's not working, you still wear it.
Right.
So yes, you
Okay.
would wear it unless it's not working.
Good point. Okay.
What?
Doesn't make me watch it, so it
I don't. He writes that even if it doesn't work, you can wear it. So explain that to me. I don't really understand it. That's why I didn't mention it. But okay. All right. So then also most poskim hold that you can wear glasses. Okay, that's not clothing material. Okay, but okay, it's not clothing material, but it's specifically made to be worn. So that's the reason that it would be allowed.
If you wear them.
If a person, they don't like, you just need reading glasses to bed. You're not
Right.
wearing them. I mean.
I think it would be a problem to wear your reading glasses to church.
So I mean, you can't even carry. You need to read to die.
Well, if you're in a place with an A roof, and you don't have to worry about carrying, right? But if you're in a place without an eruv, it would be a problem to wear your reading glasses in a public
So we just happened to.
You have to get you have to send your husband with your glasses. That's what you have to do.
But what we did was, we just happened at home and then we went.
Okay, so remember I said that you can't drape up. Shh, please, everybody, calm down. Calm down. Everybody's so excited.
Excited about Torah.
Okay, that's a very beautiful thing. It's a very beautiful thing.
You're getting excited what we can do.
Okay. All right. So remember we said you could take a blanket or something and wrap it around yourself. Okay, what you can't do is you can't take a carpet and wrap it around yourself. It is not clothing, and it will never be clothing. Okay. Now there's two general principles about like conditions for something to be a malbut. Okay, it has to be compatible with social norms, and it has to be you have to wear a derech levisha, like the normal way of wearing it. So we spoke last week about taking a tallis and folding it up so it's like this little thing like this, and then you put it on your shoulder. You're not wearing it. Okay, you're carrying it on your shoulder. Okay, but in talking about things that are social norms, so lo aleinu in our times, a man shouldn't wear a woman's dress. That would be carrying. Can't wear a sheitel. Can't wear, but women cannot wear tzitzis. That would be an isur of hotzah if you were walking because that is considered men's clothing. Yes.
What about when men wear towels?
You can wear it. Yes. Without an eruv, yeah. Because it's material. It's clothing material, and generally any kind of cloth that's soft. You don't usually have terry cloth. You do have terry cloth robes and things like that.
Taking something wet also. Schlepping something wet outside.
It depends how wet it is. But okay, so but if it's like within societal, okay, even if it's within societal norms, even if it's a man's clothing, so then you can wear it. So for example, a woman could wear a man's jacket. She's cold, they're walking home, he's nice, he gives her the jacket and beautiful shalom. And so even if it's a man's garment, but it's similar enough to something that a woman would wear. Okay, he does not mention the word pants here at all, so I'm not saying the word. Okay, a civilian cannot carry a weapon. I think that needs a little updating. I think it depends on the circumstances. Okay, and this, yeah, right. In Muncie, although soon, pogrom is coming. I just got a text message from my friend. America is going up in flames. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. No, I didn't get to ask. Okay, so just one last thing. This is important. Okay, a prisoner who wears chains, they walk in a reshus harabin. Just store that away for future use. But if you are not a prisoner, you cannot wear chains around. That's okay. That is it, and that is
Jewish prisoner.
Jewish prisoner. Unfortunately, it happens. It happens. Okay, so that's that. Okay, I think we're gonna start on Tafshitim next week. Okay, please.
Somebody maybe have the map of where the this slide. Where
Shana, I think, did some research into that. Shana Paul. Right. She has a phone number of the person who checks it every week. And I don't know if she calls every week. She was.
Is there like a map that delineates? How can we get it? Also at the
That's a very good idea. I go to the Robin.
And the map. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so a few little announcements. Okay, our breakfast is sponsored this morning by Amuna Kaufman in honor of her mother's yahrzeit, which is today, right? So it's Leah Bas Yechezkel. Okay, and also by Miriam Esther, and this is her Sudat Hodaya. Thank God she lived through and has recovered from Miriam Esther Bas Shalamis. She has lived through a potentially serious thing, and here she is to be with us. Okay, we also want to welcome back Ora, who also lived through an illness and has, come out very well on the other side. Okay. Want to welcome some people back. We have Esther, who is back home from Montreal, and should soon be permanent. Who else?
Aura.
I just said Aura. Anybody? Miriam had a big trip to Mezhebush. You see the glow? She got a Mezhebush glow. She got the glow.
Yeah.
She didn't go to Uman. She went to Mezhebush. You went to Uman also?
Yeah.
And Reb Levi Yitzchak, our teacher.
Ah.
And Rabbi Nachman.
Okay. And Mezhebush. Right.
And Rabbi Nachman.
Okay. The Seder. Okay. For those who are in the room over here, there's a new fan. Someone very kindly donated. What? Shayna. Shayna. I'm back. Love having Shayna here. Makes us happy. Okay. Anyways, thanks to the anonymous person who donated this fan. So now, listen, your comfort is my primary concern in life. So so that room will now be a little bit more comfortable. Baruch Hashem. So thank you. And also thank you to everybody who comes every morning and sets up and prepares all the food. And also, I want to thank everybody who's been doing a great job in cleaning up. Everybody's been pitching in, so keep it up. Right. They're very happy. The setter-uppers are happy that they're not also the only cleaner-uppers. So it's very nice that everybody is here and coming and participating. It's very much appreciated. Okay. All right. So there's a few requests for money going around. First of all, the Bas Medrash. So if you haven't paid your monthly dues, or you haven't paid for this particular session, it goes there. Okay, then there's also the can for the soldiers, which we collect for every week. Food being prepared by Yehudas Hoffman and her group. Are they still looking for volunteers?
Yeah, I was gonna make it.
And she's expecting, I think in September.
Okay.
So we're gonna need a lot of help.
Okay, just later. A lot of help money or a lot of help volunteers?
This is what I'm gonna say.
Go ahead.
Both. What I'm saying is, for right now, she used to cook only for Friday. Now, because there is an interesting situation on the North border, she cooks on Thursday, and pick-ups comes on Thursday. And unfortunately, last Thursday,